You guys, I literally want to cry. I got picked to run the New York City Marathon. Hi, I am so nervous to be doing this because I am not an in front of the camera kind of person, but I've always been super inspired by people who kind of put themselves out there, and I've always been not just inspired but sort of intrigued by it too. So I've always low-key have always wanted to start my own YouTube channel, but I was hesitant to do a channel dedicated to things that people would expect from me, right? So I feel like, one, I'm not a beauty content creator, I'm not a professional makeup artist, I'm not self-taught. I just happen to be a girl obsessed with beauty and the business of beauty. So like doing a beauty channel was just out of the question. There's more than enough in the space for another person to kind of enter the conversation. And a few people had told me like, hey Lisette, like why don't you start a YouTube talking about entrepreneurship? And even though I really kind of toyed with the idea, I also felt very uncomfortable doing that, because I'm still very much a newbie in owning my own business. I'm only 4 years in, and I know that just 1 year alone in business is enough to kind of earn your stripes. But I just felt like anyone can sort of claim entrepreneurship in a way, and I just didn't want to be like these gimmicky people who are like creating entrepreneurship content. It's just really cluttered in that space. So then I just kind of sat on the idea like eventually one day I will create content and one day it'll just kind of come to me. So lo and behold, as you guys know by the title of this video, that I got accepted as a guaranteed runner for the New York City Marathon happening November 3rd, 2019. Obviously, I'm like flooded with emotions by it, and this whole video is gonna explain my intro to running and what got me excited. But I think what also, as I kept going through the emotions, like one of the things I kind of told myself is that I want to capture the journey of the next 8 months. And how cool would it be is if I could just, as a novice runner, I am not a pro runner at all. I learn everything luckily through my brother and what I can find online and from what people in the running groups when I was doing the half marathon training kind of taught me. But obviously running 26 miles is a totally different beast. I'm sorry if I look on this side, I have like this massive monitor where I can see myself. So yes, so I wanted to create content that was different, disruptive, kind of shines a light into like another part of my life that I never really show. One, because like who shows himself like sweaty and gross and in pain, and also I'm just sometimes like very inconsistent with like my workouts. I was really consistent when I was training for the half because it gave me something to work towards, and then after that like I just kind of dropped off because I let my business and my personal life take over. Last year was a great, phenomenal year, both personally and professionally. So a lot of things just sort of happened. So then getting accepted into the marathon, I was like, all right, let's just start a YouTube channel to talk about all of this, talk about my journey, talk about my training, talk about how I'm getting prepared, I already have an idea for the next video where I'm gonna get like my friends and family's reaction to me doing it, because they all think like, pardon my French, I'm batshit crazy. And yeah, just like have fun with it. But I also, for my own selfish reasons, want to use this channel to connect with other people who have either run a marathon before or are currently training for the New York City Marathon, because I need all the tips that I can get. I'm learning trial by fire. So with that being said, this is what this channel is gonna be. I apologize if I ramble. I apologize if the audio is off. Again, I'm not a pro YouTuber. And luckily, by the grace of God, my husband has incredible access to production gear. So I am actually super duper excited to be shooting in his space, which is called Uptown Shots. And it's basically a production studio here in Harlem where content creators, professional photographers, basically anyone needing space to create content but outside of social media, like one day when it's all done, I will kind of show you like a behind the scenes of this space. So this room that I'm shooting in is actually really cool. We call it the Instagram room because he wanted everything to be, what? Allow it to cool, what does that mean? Okay, pardon the interruption. Sorry if like angles look different. I had a technical difficulty. So yes, be prepared for a lot of those in the channel. But basically what I was saying is that my husband's space is just super cool. It's gonna be ready soon, but it's basically a space, again, for content creators, professional photographers, people who need access to sets, a psych wall. I mean, it's gonna be so dope. But yeah, so I'm the guinea pig, shooting here in this incredible social media worthy room. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm obsessed with this wallpaper. I think it's so beautiful. I'm like, I kind of want to wallpaper everything. But yeah, now back to the madness of what this channel is, but really getting back to my journey into running. And I'll just kind of say the story. I'm hoping I will keep this to under 20 minutes. But yeah, let's get started. So I guess maybe I should explain who I am first. People must be like, okay, who is this girl and why is she talking? So to give a quick summary, my name is Lisette, born and raised in Miami, moved to New York City 9 years ago, kind of chasing the dream that a lot of people do when they come to New York. I've worked in PR and marketing pretty much my entire adult life. And after an incredible career in corporate America, working on incredible brands, I decided 4 years ago to launch my own business, which is called Chic Influence. So I'm the founder of Chic Influence, and that is literally 2 full-time jobs in itself. And basically what Chic Influence is, I call it kind of like a new age influence building agency for both PR and talent management. So we rep brands, independently owned brands, minority owned brands. It's a big passion point of mine to work with independent brands just because they need all the help that they can get against these huge conglomerates. So we work with independent brands, setting up their marketing strategies and also execution with like PR. And then we have a second division where we manage big talent in the social media content space. We've sort of zeroed in on the beauty side, but yeah, we work with talent to monetize them and kind of build them as businesses as themselves. So that's who I am during the day, and then this running thing is on you. So let me just start from the very beginning on my running journey, and it's literally the cheesiest story. But I feel like it's necessary to say to explain how and why I got here right now. So obviously I live in New York City, and one of the biggest events of the city every year is obviously the New York City Marathon. It's obviously 26.2 miles, and it runs through every single borough of the area, right? So it runs through Staten Island, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, and it ends in Manhattan. So it takes over the city. The city literally shuts down. Like pretty much everybody knows, like the day before and the day of the marathon, like you're not getting around because so many streets are shut down. 50,000 runners from all over the world come to run this race. So it's super exciting. Like the morning of, like you just feel the energy in the air. You get excited because you're gonna see these people who have been training either their whole lives or recently run this treacherous path, and you get to cheer them on. So I remember the first time I kind of went and watched it, I was living in the Upper East Side at the time, and it was just like this contagious energy. I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And then you start screaming for people you don't even know. Like they put their names on their shirts and you're like, go Jessica, go Steve, you got this, girl. So for the first few years, I lived in the Upper East Side for 5 years. So I would kind of see it at a distance, and it was a little bit hard because it was a much more congested path than where I currently live now in Harlem. So lo and behold, when we moved to Harlem, I find out the morning of the marathon that I'm like, oh my God, like the marathon runs down my street, like where we live. And I'm like, this is crazy. Because I walk on, I'm like, I can see them all there. Our mile marker, I believe, is like 20 or 21. So by the time they're like coming to us, like they're exhausted. And I just remember the first year just being so inspired. I'm like, this is so crazy. I stood outside for like the entire Sunday just cheering on strangers, because it is literally something that it fills you with emotion. Or maybe I'm just like a super cheesy person and I just become overcome with emotion easily. But I think I understand too that like not anyone can run 26.2 miles, so you put so much into it. So I was like, this is so cool. But also to give you context, like I've always been fairly athletic my whole life. Like I kept myself busy in high school and college as a competitive cheerleader, and that was really fun. But what I loved about it is that it was a team sport. What I hated about running was it's just so solitary. Like it's just you, and every time I had to run for cheerleading or whatever, I just hated it. I'm like, this is so dumb. Like who just runs to run? And like, what do you do to get yourself through every mile? So I loved the inspiration of the marathon, but I resisted running. Fast forward to the second year in Harlem, I'm like, this is awesome. Third year, that's when like something clicked. So I was excited. I go, I get my spot, I get all these little things to make noise. And so the marathon happens in waves. So it starts super early in the morning with the elite runners. So these are the ones that are like running for time, running for pace, because I believe like the purse or the cash reward for like each #1 man and girl, I believe is $1 million. So whoever wins at the best time will basically win an obscene amount of money. So another technical difficulty, so I apologize for that. All right, so basically what I'm saying is that I go outside in waves according to the pulse group. So elite runners go first, so that's always so exciting because you're like, oh my god, these people are like 0% fat, running so fast. Like these people will clear the 26.2 miles in under 3 hours. Like that's just like crazy. I think that's like an 8 minute a mile pace or something obscene. So then after the elite runners go, then comes like, I don't want to even call them disabled because that's just like, I'm sure that's like not even the term, but these are people that are literally doing the path with their hands. And that like strikes me. I'm just like, wow, like I have 2 able legs and these people would, I'm sure, give anything to run, but they're here doing it. And I'm like, God, there's like no reason to like never say I can't do anything. So then I go outside to see the people like running it with their arms, and then I go back in because then that's when like the different pace groups go, and it takes a while because we are like towards the end. The marathon ends in Central Park through the north side of Manhattan. So then I decide after like an hour to go out, and that's when like the throbs of people are like running, and that's usually between like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm out there and I'm screaming, I'm cheering, and all of a sudden I see a guy, like 2 guys running, holding a rope. And I'm a little bit confused, and I see them at a distance, and then they get closer and I see a guy with his eyes with glasses, and it says blind, I am blind, and then his guide wearing a shirt saying guide, and the guide is running with him with a rope. And at that moment I froze. Like I think about it and I start crying because I was just like, wow, like this man would give anything to see the path that he's running, and I have 2 eyes and 2 arms and 2 legs, and I'm here complaining like, oh, I can't do this, like I can't run a marathon. Like, and at that moment, like I don't know what it was, but I told myself at that moment that I was gonna challenge myself to reframe my thinking into what it meant to run, and that from that moment forward, every time I tell myself I can't do something, to think about that man who was running the marathon blind. Sorry, I have like things in my mouth. And that is what struck me to a core. I remember we have like a family chat group, and my brother at that point is already an avid runner. He had run a couple half marathons. I think by that point he had probably already run a marathon, and I remember texting my brother and I'm like, Georgie, right now I'm deciding that I'm going to challenge myself to run a half marathon, and tell me what I need to do to train, and I'm going home right now and I'm signing up for it because I just need to do this. There's people who don't have their health, don't have abilities, and I am a healthy young lady who should never take for granted her physical abilities. And that is what triggered, honestly, me starting to run. And when I tell you I hated running, I hated running. And then my brother was like, this is gonna be such an amazing journey. Like, I promise you, you're gonna change, you're gonna love to run. So we did it little by little. So I got home and I researched and I realized that New York Road Runners is basically the authority of all racing events and running anything in New York City. So I go on New York Road Runners and I see they had 2 upcoming events. So I was like, at first I was gonna do, I think it was like the United Half Marathon, but it was in March and it made me nervous because I'm gonna have to run outside in February, and as you all know, it's cold AF in February here. And I'm like, first of all, I've never run, and I've also never run outside, and much less run outside in winter. I was like, I'm not gonna prepare myself to be really shitty. So I looked and I saw that there was the women's half happening in April. So I was like, all right, it gives me a bigger cushion for it to warm up a little bit. So I signed up for the women's half, and my brother just guided me, and I'll do another video on the training schedule that so yeah, my brother put me on a training program, and I'll do another video because I'm using the same method for the marathon. So I started running, and he just told me, he constantly told me, and he was so good at this, he's like, don't beat yourself up trying to think that you're out the gate are supposed to clear 3 miles. He's like, just start small and tell yourself, run just to have endurance, but don't try to run to like outdo yourself. Listen to your body. And that's really what I did. Like, I just started 1 mile at a time. So the first 2 weeks I was just like doing this method that he told me. I don't know whose method it is, but he told me, so I just call it the Georgie method, where he was like, to get yourself adjusted to running, specifically even outside, because these races have so many hills and dips and different terrains. He's like, just run 4 miles and walk 1. Run 4, walk 1. So that way you just keep yourself consistent in a pace while you get adjusted to breathing different, getting adjusted to the temperature, getting adjusted to the terrain. So that's what I did, and I sticked to this schedule. And training, I believe I trained on the schedule for the half marathon 3.5 months out. And during all of it, I will say the first month I hated it. I hated every second of it. I did not know how to get out of my own head. I constantly, as I was running, telling myself, I can't do this. Like, why did I do this to myself? Like, why did I sign up? For me, quitting was not an option. I'm like, you are gonna go to this half marathon, and if you have to walk the whole thing, you're gonna do it, but you're not gonna not do it. So the first month I hated it, but then after, I don't know what happened, but then I realized, and he told me, he's like, just find really good music, and then that's what I did. And I realized through running that I have to listen to like semi-neurotic house music. Like, I need to feel like my brain is going like this, like, oh, I just need to feel like super upbeat, and that did it. And then the more that I started running, I realized, like, after I got comfortable and I was already running like 3, 4, 5, 6 miles, after like mile 2 is when like the endorphins are pouring into my body. And at that moment, I have like this like outer body experience that I can't even explain. Like, I literally feel like happiness overload. I feel I can do anything. My head is so clear. And once the first time I experienced like the runner's endorphin high, I was like, okay, I get this and I want more of it. And then at that point, I just started listening to my body, and like my life started to change. Like, when I started running, I felt like I was just more disciplined. I felt like I was more productive at work. I felt really like happy always. I felt less anxious, and I suffer from like really bad anxiety that has come with entrepreneurship. So like the running keeps my anxiety at bay, which I particularly like. And then when it came to like running the half marathon, I don't know what happened that day, but I had a full-blown outer body experience. Like, I felt my body was running, but I felt like I wasn't in my body. And it wasn't like from pain, because I had trained, I had foam rolled, I had iced, I did the proper nutrition according to what my brother was telling me to do. So I felt good, I felt healthy. Yeah, I was tired towards the end, And like the minute I stopped running, because I never stopped running, I ran those full 13 miles. Once I stopped, I felt all the pain. But running it, it's like I saw like my whole life flash before my eyes, and I was just like, something is pushing me through. And after I was like, I want more of this, and I just really love running now. And then after the half, I told myself, one day I'm gonna run the New York City Marathon. Like, I'm gonna put this on my bucket list of life, because I just have to do it one time and I'm good. And then after the half marathon, I had signed up for a few other races that I did. I did the Queens 10K, I did the Harlem 5K here, the Percy Sutton one, and then I did like 2 other little races with New York Road Runners, and then after I just sort of stopped, because also they're expensive. All right, so then I stopped running because life got in the way. I was planning a wedding, going to a wedding, and then the holidays came and I just stopped running altogether. And then I realized I was not unhappy, but I missed it. I missed the community, the excitement, because also I have a running partner, which is Claudia, and it's one of our good friends, girlfriends, and she just like was always like my running wing woman. Like, we would go to the weekly running groups together, we would do the races together, so it was like really nice to build that bond with her. And then like being part of this new community was just so inspiring. They're so uplifting. Like, I would run on like these Saturday runs that I did with Jack Rabbit in Columbus Circle, and it was just awesome too, because like I got to see like parts of New York that I would have never seen. Like, I done the most beautiful runs through these cities, and I just felt like it was just like everything. It was like the endorphin high, running through this incredible city I live in. It was running with people who are legit elite runners, and then they're helping me, like somebody who knows nothing about running. I'm just like, all right, let's just run to run. But they were so motivating, they were so helpful. I remember one time, it was the Saturday before the half marathon, we did a 10-mile run with Jack Rabbit, and I remember running, and I don't know if Claudia had gone, no, I think she didn't, and I was like sad, and something had happened, and I ended up running with literally a 70-year-old man, and he was outpacing me in pace, but then he was running with like another man, and then the man got tired, so then he started running with me. And then he was like just talking to me. He's like, oh, so like, what's your story? And I'm just like, well, this is like my first half marathon that I'm training for. And he's like, oh, he's like, that he had run 9 marathons in his life, and he runs between 3 to 4 half marathons a year, and that he was training for the Nashville half marathon. And I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my God, like, it's moments like that I'm like, why am I complaining about running 13 miles when this man is like 70 years old and like kicking my ass? So it was the community around it that was just so uplifting, and everyone's so positive. And then this year comes, and I was like, man, like I really should sign up for something, because it forces me to have a schedule that requires a lot of discipline. And I really thrive off of having like a very structured day or week. And so I get the email from New York Road Runners that the New York City Marathon lottery is coming. So I was like, all right, let me just join the lottery, honestly, for shits and giggles, because through all the running groups that I had been a part of, many of those people had tried to get into the New York City Marathon, and they would get rejected every year. So to get into New York City Marathon, I want to say there's 5 ways to get in. You either qualify from another marathon globally that is a partner race. So if you have a qualifying time from another marathon, then you are allowed to get into the New York City Marathon. You either are an elite level member of New York Road Runners, which comes at an obscene cost. I want to say I looked into it, and it's like a $10,000 membership to get a guaranteed spot, which I was like, I don't got 10K to do that. The other way is, which I tried to do last year to qualify for this year, is doing the New York Road Runners 9+1. So I am a New York Road Runners member since last year, and what the 9+1 means is that you have to run 9 qualifying races within a calendar year. It could be anything from like 9 5Ks or whatever the allotment is, it doesn't matter as long as you run 9 races and you volunteer one time, and then you have a guaranteed spot in the next upcoming marathon. The other way is to run for charity, and it's great, and I really thought of it, but it's also a very huge ask. Like, you are kind of forced to raise like between $3,000 to $5,000, and it's not that I don't want to do that, but like, I have enough on my plate on work just asking clients for money or asking new business opportunities for money to then go out of my way and ask strangers and just to pay that amount. And then if you don't need it, then you have to pay the difference. Or the other way is the lottery, and you got a 50-50 shot. And a lot of people had told me that it's like really impossible to make it in. Not a lot of people make it in the marathon through the lottery, but I was like, all right, I'll just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, fine, I don't make it. So I get the email for the lottery, and I was just like, yo, I remember it was a late night at the office. I get the email like, lottery is open. I'm like entering it, and to enter it, they force you to put in your credit card, because if you do get accepted, they automatically charge your card to guarantee your spot. So I remember I did like an IG story. I'm like, YOLO, sign up for it. I was like, I am not getting in, because everyone I know, I mean, people were telling me like they had tried for like 3 years and get rejected every single year. So I was like, whatever, I'll just sign up for it. And then I get an email after like, you're gonna find out February 27th, which was like a legit like a month later. I'm like, oh my god, why do I have to wait a month to know? Because like, I'm very neurotic and I overthink things. I'm like, this is always gonna be in the back of my head. So February 27th comes, and I'm like, oh my god, I find out today or whatever. And on Wednesday, which was this past Wednesday, I actually had a client event with Gabby here in New York, and I remember telling her, I was like, oh my god, I need to keep myself busy, because I'm gonna be refreshing my inbox all day to see if that email like comes in. And I was just like, you know, telling myself, I'm like, whatever happens, if I make it, I will be grateful, because I love working towards things, and I love having like impossible goals, and I just love doing things that like people don't expect, and I love to give myself like just insane challenges. I thrive off of like really neurotic things. I don't know why, because no one in my family is like that really, so I don't know why. I'm like a very extra person. And then I was like, fine, if I don't get in, then I'm just gonna sign up for like maybe 1 or 2 half marathons this year, just to kind of give me something. So I remember like getting home from like running around the city with Gabby, and I get home and at a conference call, and I'm like hanging up the conference call, and I see in my inbox, Lisette, get ready to run New York. And I'm like, oh my god, and I open it and I just freeze. And I was like, I mean, I'm gonna try not to cuss on my YouTube, because I do curse, whatever, a lot. It's, I guess, the New York in me. But I was like, oh god, oh my god. And I froze, I started to cry, I called my parents, I messaged my husband, and then I just froze, and I did like this like 30 IG story thing, like literally crying. And I don't know, like it just means a lot. And that's literally my story of how I got here. And I'm sorry that this video is super long with a lot of spotty things, but I think at the end of the day, I just wanted to show a different side, kind of showcase what this all means, and also showcase that anything and everything is possible, because I can create a lot of reasons why I can't do this. I can say I can't do this because my body is not ready. I can say I can't do this because I hate running. I can say I can't do this because I don't have time. I mean, I know out of a lot of people, like, I work a lot. Like, I can say I can't do this because I own a business. And for me, every time I hear I can't, that actually is not that you can't, it's because you're choosing not to. And everything that I do in my life, and this is where like my dad has always been really good at like positive affirmations. He's always like, change, I can't until if you choose to or choose not to. So I choose to do the impossible. I choose to do things that most won't. I choose to say, why not me? And I just know that the next 8 months are going to be very hard. There's going to be days that I'm not going to want to run and I'm going to have to run. There's going to be days that I'm going to be tired, and there's going to be days that I'm in pain, and I know that I'm going to have injuries that are going to be a part of this, and I'm mentally ready for that. So I just hope that this channel also inspires whoever is watching, that if there's anything that may seem impossible, you can do it. Because I am not a runner, and I am gonna run this race, and I'm gonna run it damn good. But that also means I'm gonna put in the work to make sure that I don't die running the race. But yeah, also share any tips that you may have. If you know people that have run it, like put their Instagram handles, websites, like whatever. I want to connect with people. Please send me every and all resources. Once I get my bib number, which obviously won't be like till way closer to the race, I'll share my bib number. If you guys want to track me, cheer me, I will take it all. But I'm really excited for this journey, and just be patient with me. I'm not a YouTube content creator, so I'm gonna try to post every weekend because I want to. The way that my schedule is set up is that Saturdays are going to be my long days. So after my long run, I want to kind of check. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you love it. And like I always like to make fun of all of my clients, like don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, whatever it is that y'all are supposed to say. But yeah, that's it. And I'm gonna try to create like a really cute thumbnail, like running. All right.